Hello, this is TCat from TCat's Deep Vinyl Tracks. I'm on here to do the lottery video for Robert Zee's channel. And this is one that I've been kind of putting off for quite a while, but I've been wanting to do just because it's tough for me to sit here and talk about myself and not talk about music so much. But I'm going to go ahead and give it a try and see how it works. I've stopped and started this already several times. I even rearranged the room a little bit to show my music room a little bit later on. But I don't want anybody to have too high expectations because, well, for a reason I'll explain later on, I don't really have as big of a collection as what I used to have. So anyway, I'm just going to start off with a little bit about myself. When I was 7 years old, my mother made me start taking piano lessons, and I wasn't too sure I wanted to do that back then, but after a couple of years of convincing me, I finally started to really enjoy doing it, and I found out that that I had a love of music, and I really didn't mind playing the piano. I didn't like to show off the fact that I liked playing it to my friends because, you know, they couldn't figure out it was more of a sissy thing to them, I suppose, and I was trying to uphold my reputation as not being a sissy. So I never really bragged about it too much. I acted like I didn't like it, that my mother was making me do it, but after a couple of years of doing it, I found that I really loved it. So a couple of years went by, and before I knew it, me and my brother and a couple of our friends put together a small band, and we called the name of the band was the Gazans. Kind of an interesting name. We wanted something that didn't really exist, that wasn't really a word or anything. We spelled it Gazaan, and we thought we were pretty original. Now it sounds kind of corny to me after all these years, but we used to play kind of a mix of folk music and folk rock, not just regular folk music, but folk rock, and some rock and roll. Really had fun doing that, but of course it never really went anywhere. The biggest place we played was a lodge in northern Utah called Sherwood Hills. So that was probably our biggest gig, but we had a lot of fun when we were doing it. So when I finally started going to the university, at first I started out in broadcasting. By this time I knew I loved music, but broadcasting was the first thing I looked into because somewhere along the way somebody said I had the voice for it, and I was pretty much convinced that that's what I wanted to do. I did that for a while. Even worked at a radio station, and then found out that my real love was with the music, not necessarily with the broadcasting aspect of it. So before I knew it, when I changed my degree over to music composition, and because one of the things I really loved back then was instrumentals, and I thought I would do a really good job in soundtracks. So that was my original plan, was to go out in music and do movie soundtracks. I started collecting a lot of 8-tracks and vinyl earlier than this, of course. That's where my love of music grew. My first album that I bought was Steve Miller's Fly Like an Eagle, the first album I bought with my own money, and that was on 8-track, of course. I also collected some vinyl that I collected mostly through the Columbia House Music Club, which was a big thing back then. And it had a lot of different styles and everything, but it seemed like I always tended to be attracted more to the progressive rock, even though I didn't really know what progressive rock was back then. I just knew I liked bands like Kansas, King Crimson. I didn't really care for Yes at first. That one took a little longer to grow on me. But I did love Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I loved Rush. I remember when I discovered them for the first time, that was the album 2112, just before they really went big, is when I decided to order their album from Columbia House. And I remember putting that on and thought, this is perfect music. That's what I thought. So I fell in love with Rush, and quickly started buying all the albums I could from them. And like I said, I went out into music composition, started learning music theory. A lot of this stuff was fairly easy for me, since I had already had several years of piano lessons before that. And but there were some interesting other things that were quite interesting to me, and I grabbed a hold of that and just ran with it. I majored in that for 2 years. Met my first wife, who told me that there was no money to be made in music, and she convinced me to go out into business management instead. And I did, and that's something I've regretted for my entire life, and several things have happened during my life that have convinced me that it was not the right decision. So, but throughout all the time, I always kept my love for music. I decided to get back into vinyl again after I had sold my original collection off, pretty much given up on records, and there were no record players or anything like that to be bought. So I seen no purpose in keeping records, and turned completely to CDs. And I did have a few cassettes at the time too. Started getting back into vinyl around 2004, and that was before the real boom hit with vinyl. And those were the good days when you'd go into secondhand store, pretty much because that's the only place you could find vinyl. And you'd go into a secondhand store, have pretty much your pick of anything for 50 cents a piece, sometimes 25 cents. And I really built up my music collection, got a lot of first pressings during that time. Had complete discographies of all of my favorite bands, and had quite a record collection going on before it started getting hard to find anything in the secondhand stores anymore. So I had a pretty good collection by that time. My collecting habits now have changed back to searching in secondhand stores again, because there came a time when I had to sell off a lot of my records. It turned out they were a good investment, but I didn't look at them as an investment. I had to sell them off because of a couple of issues. One, we had money issues, and two, we had to move into a smaller apartment, which is where we live now, and I just didn't have the space for it. And for a while there, the only way we could get by it was, I'd always have to sell so many records every month to be able to get enough money to get by. So things have changed somewhat since then. I don't have to sell them off anymore, so I've been building things up again. But my life circumstance hasn't changed as much as my spending habits. I buy stuff pretty much all from secondhand stores now. That's where I find the bulk of my music, just because that's how I have to do it. I still do from time to time save up enough money to get new albums, but for the last couple of years it's been kind of limited what I've been able to pick up. So unfortunately I've missed out on a lot of things, and that is why my music collection is not as large as what I would like it to be or what it used to be. Pretty much all the records that I own sit in these shelves right here. There are 4 shelves all filled with records, and then the top shelf up here has box sets and a few books. We'll go over that in a little more in detail as we go on here. But like I say, most of the stuff I get from secondhand stores, antique stores, and flea markets. And it's not that that's a bad thing. In fact, I was getting to where I missed collecting music that way, where you go into a music store and the biggest thrill was getting something that you really loved for a very good price. So I've got that back again. The last couple of months have had a lot of luck in secondhand stores, which has been a good thing. Finding some surprisingly great titles. And but again, I'm not getting the stuff that I had before, and that's what I've kind of been working on, is trying to get good copies like I had before. But that's kind of hard to do, so I've had to pretty much just settle with getting a copy for filler and then replacing it as I find a better copy. So that's the situation I'm in now. I also buy online. I do buy some new vinyl online, and I also buy a lot of used vinyl online, but I have to really check out the site or the vendor before I'll decide to go ahead and buy something from them, because I know how hard it is to buy something that you can't really see. You want it to be in good shape, and so far I've been pretty lucky with that. I also love going into record stores and browsing, and usually around the holidays or different times when I find I have a little extra money, I can go in and buy some new records right from a new record store. As far as being a completist, I used to be more than I am now. For certain bands, I'm still consider myself a completist, but mostly with their studio albums more than live or bootlegs or things like that. Some of the bands that I'd consider myself a completist on, as far as that goes, would be Pink Floyd, King Crimson, Rush, Frank Zappa, Led Zeppelin, Neil Young, just to name a few. There are others too. But again, mostly it's just studio. But that's not saying if I find something by a band that I really like, there's still a pretty good chance I'll pick it up. Most people know my favorite genre is progressive rock. Like I said, I've loved it even before I knew there was a name for it. And it just seemed that I gravitated towards those kind of bands. Since 2010, I've been involved with, I've been a member of the ProgArchives.com site, and I've been quite active in there, enough to the point where I was eventually put in as an admin for the site. Right now I'm kind of taking semi-sabbatical from it. I do go there occasionally and plan on going back and spending more time there, but I found out I was putting in a lot of time because all the time is voluntary, and it was getting a little bit hard. At first I really enjoyed doing it, but it was getting to the point where I couldn't do it so much. My second favorite category would be like the indie folk or alt country categories. I find that I actually like all kinds of music, And I like a lot of classical music, mostly because of my classical training in the piano. But there's a lot of experimental stuff I love. I love when any music pushes the boundaries that have been put around it. I find that I have a really hard time, though, with a lot of popular music, which I would consider your more commercial, radio-friendly music. And I don't know of any band that I love under the pop country genre. I love a lot of old country, like Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard, and some of those. Not that I would consider myself a big fan of all that, but I do like listening to some of that and having some of those albums around. But I hate pop country. Stay away from that completely. My music library is all organized alphabetically with miscellaneous things like soundtracks and compilations at the end of Z, and anything with a number at the beginning of the title before A's. Now, that's generally the way I do it. It's not perfectly done that way. There are a few of them that are out of sequence, and I might show some of that as we go on. I also have some CDs. Some of them I keep, but most of them I don't end up holding on to for very long, just because I'd rather get things on vinyl. But I tend to put a lot of CDs that I buy on my hard drive, and that preserves the CD, and then some of that stuff I end up holding. Some of it I send to the thrift store. As far as protecting vinyl, my preferred way of doing it is, well, let me show you an example. We'll take this one as an example. King Crimson's Live at the Orpheum. I like having these protective sleeves, though right now I'm out of them and waiting patiently to be able to get some more. And I take the vinyl out of the cover and put them behind it like this. If there are any inserts or anything like that, I'll put them back here with the vinyl also. I found that those plastic sleeves really protect the cover and make it so they don't get ring wear or other wear issues quite so badly as they would if they were just out there, just hanging out there without a cover on. So yeah, that's how I do that. I do have a cleaning system, which if I have time I'll show that later. But it's basically a washing system that has the little goat hair brushes that you spin the record through, and then you let it air dry. I know a lot of people don't like that method because you run out of the solution, but I do make my own solution, which saves a lot of money. So, and I plan on giving a short tour of my music room, mostly of my vinyl over here, which I'll possibly go through a little bit and pull out some records at random so you can see what I have there. And so anyway, that's it for this part of it. I'll continue on later on. One more thing I wanted to add that I forgot to add in here was where my name comes from. Now, obviously, my real name isn't TCat. That's my online persona, or name, or whatever you want to call it. My real name is Mike. Pretty generic name. But I do want to kind of explain where TCat comes from, because a lot of people always tend to ask me what that stands for. It comes from this particular album, Primus, Sailing the Seas of Cheese. I'm a big time Primus fan. I don't have anything by them on vinyl, but I have almost all of their albums on CD. Now, the song that TCat comes from is Tommy the Cat. And if you're familiar with Tommy the Cat, the song Tommy the Cat, you'll know what that's all about. I've had that nickname ever since 1994, I believe, when I first went online and started going into chat rooms and things like that. That's the name I come up with. Okay, so I'm going to go through and show you around the room. This is a small spare bedroom that we have in the apartment. Because of the space and the confined area that I'm in, I don't have anything really fancy, just smaller speakers and anything, just so I don't disturb the neighbors so much. This is my turntable. It's fairly basic. Audio-Technica ATPL50. But it does the job for what I need it for. It's actually a very good turntable, and one that you can also plug into the computer to transfer anything over to digital format for the hard drive. This is my amplifier, equalizer, and CD player on the bottom. These are just components that I threw together myself. Got them for pretty good prices a few years back, and it works well enough for me at this point. These are the speakers I use. For such a small speaker, they have a pretty powerful punch. Again, they serve the purpose. They're good enough for me. They bring out a lot of really good sounds and tones and everything. Work well at low volumes. I don't have to have anything really turned up high to hear much. They're just really great speakers. I got them from Amazon. And here, of course, my desktop. I've got several knickknacks that I put on top. That picture there is of my wonderful cat that unfortunately I lost to old age last April, so it's almost been a year now. Most wonderful cat ever. And various other objects on there. So over here, of course, there's my printer on top. I've got my CDs arranged on the front. These are mostly CDs of artists that I have a lot of CDs of, but of course there's limited room, so not everything is there. Got your Ryan Adams, Big Head Todd and the Monsters, Kate Bush, Bob Dylan, King Crimson, more King Crimson, Kings of Leon, My Morning Jacket, Nirvana, and over here more Nirvana. You got Fish, John Prine, Porcupine Tree, Radiohead, Primus, and so on. And then this also opens up, and there's more CDs in here. It's kind of like my overflow. So you can see there some of the other CDs I have. I'm not like unlike Robert Zee, I don't have a whole lot of really exotic stuff. I mean, I find an occasional thing like this Hanoi Rocks with the Japanese obi on it. It's kind of cool, and it's still sealed. It's never been opened. So Robert ought to geek out over that. But again, nothing fancy. You know, there's a lot of things I would like to be able to get, a lot of different things I'd like to collect. But right now, I'm a little hampered by a financial situation. Over here, this is what I use to clean my records. This Final Style is the solution, but I've since used that up and make my own now. That works just fine. This is the record washing kit that I have. This just lifts off. This is the thing that you put the records on. This twists in half, and there's a gasket on both sides. You fit that over the middle of the record. This goes through the whole of the record. This goes on one side, that goes on the other, and the gasket keeps water from getting inside that ruins the labels, and that works really well. This is where you put the solution. It's got the goat hair brushes down in here, and I usually give each record about 4 or 5 spins through that to clean it. And the bottom of this unit comes out into kind of a dryer rack. I was hoping I could get this off with one hand, but that doesn't seem to be happening right now. I need both hands to get that out, but this all comes out, and there's these stands. You just place the vinyl in. You can put like I don't know, somewhere around 10 records on each one. So that's it. This holds other things, filters. This here you can pour back into the bottle, and you use these filters to filter the solution through. So all this stuff can be washed out and used again and again. Extra filters over here, so on. Okay. And then over on this side, I have my books. Down here I have some piano music, keyboard music, sheet music, that kind of thing. I'm really into science fiction mostly, but my favorite author is Stephen King. That top shelf has all the classics that I'm currently reading. And over here I've got my Yamaha Keyboard. Very nice keyboard. It has almost a full key set of keys on it. I think it's missing about 4 or 5 from a standard piano. But they're the high and low keys that you never use anyway. Of course, it has its rhythm banks, but it also has synthesizer banks and everything else. So really a lot you can do with this unit. And then over here, well, let's see, I've got a few things on the wall. This Pink Floyd magazine cover, which is actually in 3D. I don't think that's coming through very well for this, but it's really cool looking. Music poster, nice little jazz setup there. Get your kicks on Route 66. Nice little wall of pictures there. That's about all I have space for at the moment. Got my box sets up here. My records, both Tom Petty volumes, so this is the full collection between the two. Kate Bush, remastered in vinyl 4. This is all of her rare stuff and her B-sides. There's 4 albums in that. The Capitol albums from 1968 to 1977. The Deer Hunter's Color Spectrum collection. One of these days I'll go through this and show you what that is. It's really cool. Debussy, who's my favorite classical composer. This is a great Time Life box set. B.B. King, the King's Blues box right here. And the Jethro Tull, 20 Years of Jethro Tull, which has some of the hits, but it also has a lot of rare stuff on it too. And then for CDs, this is the King Crimson Volume 1, the 21st Century Guide from 1969 to 1974. So it has a couple of discs full of studio cuts and a couple of discs full of live cuts. The Frank Sinatra Reprise Collection, Billy Joel's Greatest Hits, In a Word, the Yes box set, Billie Holiday, the complete Decca recordings, the Cat Stevens box set I just found recently, Chet Atkins, the RCA years, The Who, 30 Years of Maximum R&B, got James Brown, Dan Fogelberg, Gordon Lightfoot, 2 Johnny Cash box sets. This is the Unearthed box set, and the Green Day American Idiot book with the CD. And over here I got some sort of music biographies and things like that. Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, Eric Clapton, Mick Fleetwood, Tom Petty, Bob Dylan, Neil Young, another Bob Dylan scrapbook, another Bob Dylan mostly picture book, and the Rolling Stone Illustrated History of Rock and Roll. And then we have an accordion over here. There's one of the buttons has fallen into the actual unit itself and has to be repaired, but other than that, it's a working accordion. And then the records start down here. Got a few little things here and there, don't be concerned about that. But my music's in alphabetical order, starting out with numbers. So you get 10cc's debut album first. Great album, actually. Then you move into the A's. Aerosmith. B's, you got some Beatles here. Bebop Deluxe, George Benson, David Bowie's Legacy album. Great album. Some by Kate Bush. There's Ariel, the director's cut. Some Johnny Cash there. Of course, you got San Quentin still in the shrink. This one's a kind of a strange one that's not easy to find. Johnny Cash's Everybody Loves a Nut. Really kind of a interesting collection there. Some Clannad, an Irish folk band. Got your Eric Clapton's in here. Clash, London Calling. There's some Bruce Coburn. Some Cream. Crosby, Stills and Nash and Young. Terrence Trent D'Arby. Deep Purple. A few Neil Diamond. There's Donovan. Of course, you got your big section of Bob Dylan records. Some ELO, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Eye to Eye, which is one of my favorite unknown bands from the 70s. Eye to Eye. A lot like Steely Dan type vibe to them. Got Fleet Foxes. Some great Fleetwood Mac. Of course, you got Rumors in there. Don't worry about the ones in the back. They're kind of like placeholders to help. And there that goes. They're just kind of like placeholders I use so that the records aren't up against the wall or getting smashed or anything. And I'll fix that. So it's a record that's all scratched up, so nothing to worry about there. Down here in this box I have some of my CDRs. Got your Godspeed You Black Emperor. Some great albums by them. Anyway, I think you're getting the picture here. I got Steve Hackett. Even got some Merle Haggard here. I like some of the older country, and Herbie Hancock. Got Hawkwind. Jim James, who's the lead singer of My Morning Jacket. I've got 2 of his solo albums. I got your Jethro Tull. At one time I used to have the entire Jethro Tull collection on vinyl, at least what was released on vinyl, but most of those had to be sold off. Elton John, the great Ricky Lee Jones, K.O. Dot, favorite band of mine. They're avant-garde, progressive. And you get into your King Crimsons. Got the entire King Crimson collection on vinyl, at least the studio albums, all except for The Power to Believe. Got Kings of Leon. Lindisfarne, 3 albums by them. Nick Lowe is a favorite of mine, believe it or not. I like his music. Lots of Manfred Mann. Lots of Manhattan Transfer. Love their music. I've even got Mannheim Steamroller, their first 6 Fresh Air albums. Great stuff. All kinds of stuff here. Mogwai, Mono, Moody Blues. And then My Morning Jacket, got a lot of their albums. One of my favorite bands. Some Willie Nelson there. Nirvana's Bleach. Going down here. Some Ozark Mountain Daredevils. Oops, got one stuck there. Good thing that's got plastic on it. Ozark Tentacles. A good psychedelic space rock band. Got your Alan Parsons. Perfect Circle. Emotive. This is their album of covers. Great stuff. It's kind of hard to do with one hand. Got your Pink Floyd albums. Got most of those remastered. There's a few I'm missing. Robert Plant. I've got both Robert Plant and Alison Krauss's albums. Some Poco, The Police, Jean-Luc Ponty. Got Porcupine Tree, 3 of their albums on vinyl. Premiata, Italian band PFM, that's Jet Lag. Pretenders, Prince, John Prine, got lots of John Prine. Procol Harum, Queen, Sheer Heart Attack, the OK Computer triple album set. Some Residents, Return to Forever, Chick Corea's jazz fusion band. The Roaches, some Rolling Stones. Roxy Music, of course we got Rush. That's the archive set. Saga, Santana, Scritti Politti, some Bob Seger. Like I said, I got some classical stuff in there. Silver Mount Zion, that's their 10-inch. Simon and Garfunkel, Paul Simon. Nancy Sinatra is my guilty pleasure. Love Nancy Sinatra. Got the Smiths, Bruce Springsteen, the Squeeze. Love Squeeze. Steely Dan, Steve Miller Band, Cat Stevens, Al Stewart, Sting, so on and so forth. And as you can see, they're all pretty much in alphabetical order. Now you notice out of the S's I pulled out Steve Miller. I put Steve Miller under the S's because that's where I'm used to finding him. I know he should be under the M's. I tried to put him under M's at one time, and I kept forgetting where it was at, so I had to change that. Some Tangerine Dream here. I'd like to find more of their stuff. Talk Talk Television, 10 years after. Pete Townsend, Trillion, Triumvirate, band that's a lot like Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Robin Trower, U2, I love U2's War album. A couple of U2s there. I got UK, band that should have been around longer than they were. Ultravox, of course we got Uriah Heep, lots of Vangelis albums. Stevie Ray Vaughan, Velvet Underground, Rick Wakeman, Joe Walsh, War, Jack White, The Who, Quadrophenia, and of course Steven Wilson, got some of his albums. Wyndham Hill collections, these are all sampler collections. Paul McCartney and Wings, George Winston, Paul Winter, Stevie Wonder, Yellow, Yes, Neil Young, Frank Zappa, Zebra, ZZ Top. My two favorite ZZ Top albums, Tres Hombres and Diguelo. Love those two albums. And then I got my soundtracks. Got Alice's Restaurant, Country, Eddie and the Cruisers, La Bamba, Sid and Nancy, Tommy. My various compilations. I'll go over those in a separate video. Library music, more compilations, and then my Warner Brothers Reprise albums, which I did an entire video on. And that's it. That's so as you can see, what I've got to this point. I've got a fairly good collection going there, but it's nothing really close to what I used to have. Let me try to go into detail a little bit about what happened there. I had a workplace accident while I was living down in the States and running a chain of stores that sold towards the end we were starting to sell records, but mostly CDs, music, any kind of music items, videos. It was also video rental, video sales, all kinds of books. It was quite a huge store, and it was part of a chain that has since gone the way of many multimedia stores like that. But for a while there, it was quite a well-run company. But I was working there, putting up signs, and we were putting up the Christmas signs for that particular year. There are these really heavy metal signs that hung from the ceiling, and I knew they were dangerous when I first seen them, but they insisted to keep using them. So this was the third year that we used them, and there were a couple of us putting them up, and one of them we thought was secure wasn't, and fell down and hit me on the head, causing a concussion, which I still feel I still get the after effects of that. I don't think as quickly as I used to, and I also have problems multitasking. If I'm doing something and something else happens, it just throws me right off. I can't concentrate. So a lot of things that basically put me out of a job there. But since then, I've been back to work. After a year, I was able to try to go back to work again, but it never really worked out. Again, I just didn't have the capability that I used to have as a manager. And I even started my own business for a while, and that was actually working out quite well. It was retail merchandising business for the area that I live in. There aren't a lot of retail merchandisers around that area, and it was doing quite well with that, getting ready to add other employees besides myself. And then another accident, which I can't go into detail about, that's put me into the situation I am now. So for a lot of different reasons, as you can imagine, I had to sell off a lot of my record collection to help us get by. Also for the space, since we had to downgrade the apartment we were living in. So slowly I'm building things back to the way I used to have it. A lot of times I wish I could show you what I used to have, but of course that can't happen right now. So and that's also the reason why a lot of the shopping I do now is in secondhand stores, antique stores, and things like that. And it's exciting to still find some of the great deals, which lately I've been finding a lot. And when they open the borders again, which is supposed to happen at the end of this month, I'll be able to go over to the States again and peruse some of those secondhand stores and antique stores. I'm kind of excited for that. But anyway, that's where I'm at. That's the predicament I'm in right now. It's great to be in the vinyl community. Sorry about that. And I've found a lot of new friends this way. I've been watching videos from the vinyl community for quite a while now, and have finally talked myself into doing this, even though I don't have the music collection I would like to have. That's something that, hopefully my videos can help you see how that grows over the years, and as I try to get some of my collection back again. So anyway, not sure what else I can cover here. Of course, as far as factors of the music that I collect, I am rather picky, but right now condition isn't a major priority unless, I won't take anything that's just very good or under that. I usually go for very good plus and better. And a lot of times I use stuff as placeholders until I can finally get a better copy. So anyway, thank you for putting up with this and for watching. I know a lot of you probably didn't make it all the way to the end, but that's okay. I would encourage everybody to go out there and make a video like this for the Robert Zee's Vinyl Community Lottery. You have a chance to win a lot. I mean, a lot of stuff from various volunteers who's willing to send stuff out to the winner. So go out there, show support for Robert Zee. He's an amazing member of the vinyl community. He's got quite a crazy collection. I love his collection. I love how he explains things. And you should go take a look at his video. He did a sample video which lasts an hour and a half of things about himself and about the way he collects and the way he's got his things organized. It's really quite fascinating. So go check him out. I'll leave a link for his sample video down below in the comments section, and you can go there and subscribe to his channel, put in your own video response to that, and yeah, give yourself a good chance to win a lot of nice stuff from the amazing volunteers and members of the vinyl community. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you around.